やっとオートの一部になれたみたいだ。自然とここに来てしまった。
Every time this freaking Tobias guy comes onto the screen, my blood effing boils. It boils. For him even regretting what atrocities he did towards our girl Dahlia and what atrocities he attempted to do by like stealing all of her like magical devices, basically stealing the IP and just doing a bunch of heinous stuff. Like every time this guy's on the screen, he's like, bah, 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 bah. Like I don't care that he's now just finding out. I think it's from Orlando, I believe. Like I think it's his brother, but I don't care that he's finding out like just for the first time, you know, of what Carlo and what his father ended up doing, you know, for him and for Dahlia, to protect Tobias and all. I don't care about that stuff. Well, let me say this. I care because it's interesting to find out all the different history on, you know, what was Carlo actually thinking with Tobias? What did he actually think of him? Like, it's interesting from that standpoint, but from like Dahlia's standpoint, like, I don't care about you, little mother. You know what I mean? So every time he's on screen, though, I'm just like, yeah, I just want to like, just like roundhouse him. You know what I mean? Anyways, though, that was an interesting fact, and I think this episode did serve for a lot of different factors in giving us more context, not only around Tobias, not only around what Carlo and, you know, the guy from the Orlando company, I think it was Orlando company, you guys can correct me, but basically Tobias's dad, what they were thinking about. It gave us more context for Wilfred. It kind of showed us a glimpse of what his mom was, which was like a really badass knight, and the fact that his mom went and through an attack, you know, defended not only him, but defended everybody else. We find out that he has like an auntie, you know, basically someone who was really, how do you say it? Was really obedient, or like really, you know, had really strong ties to his mom. Somebody who like, you know, was able to bring him up through his childhood and stuff too, that he views kind of like an aunt. So he has somebody who's really important, kind of fills that motherly role in his life. We got to see him go through childhood. We learned about his eyes, on how his eyes really overly attract people, and the golden eyes are something that he loathes and he hates because of the attention that he gets. He's never left alone. He's had people go as far as like, you know, cheating on their husband to try and get to him. He's had, you know, girls throw themselves. He's never able to have a fully fledged, you know, true relationship that may extend beyond friendship, but because everyone's always trying to push that envelope with him, at least from the, you know, opposite gender, he never really is able to experience that. So him, as well as Dahlia, both say like, hey, you know, romance is just not something that, I'm not saying won't ever happen, but it's just not something that it's on my level of importance scale right now. And we got to see kind of Wilfred kind of going through it as a kid. I love being able to see that. On the flip side, we also got to see date number 2 this episode as well. So on top of, you know, on top of context, on top of learning more about Carlo, on top of learning more about Wilfred, we also got date number 2 between Wilfred and between Dahlia. So I definitely loved to be able to see that as well. We got to see them go on what I would consider date number 2. Date number 2 ended with Dahlia creating the fairy glasses for Wilfred. So I thought that was a really cool thing to see. We got to see how she actually goes through the creation process. So I thought that was a really, really cool thing. We got to see how she basically like fights demons in her own magical abilities. We got to see how she goes through and is able to, you know, kind of speak with the spirits to kind of like get them on her side. We learned that, you know, early on her dad told her like, you know, you got to tell the spirits exactly what you want for them to kind of manipulate, you know, the magic in such a way. So we got to see her create the fairy glasses for Wilfred, and those now fairy glasses, we got to see that they are going to hide his eyes. And he truly was able to take to the towns, and he was able to finally live a little semblance of what he would consider a normal life, as opposed to his everyday life where he has to kind of hide himself, hide his face, hide his everything. So I thought that was such a beautiful thing to see. And at the end of the episode, he also, you know, extended out his beyond thankfulness, you know, to Dahlia, and that reignited Dahlia and saying like, hey, I'm not a wizard, I'm not an alchemist, but you know what I can do is be a magic artificer, and being that magic artificer, I get to directly affect people's lives in really positive ways, and that's what really drives her in this now new life. So you know, I love this from a ton of different factors, but this episode was just a really great 9 out of 10 episode. I love the second date. I love how Wilfred and Dahlia are getting closer. I love how Wilfred calls Dahlia beautiful. I love how he realizes he doesn't want to, you know, go beyond that friendship line, at least not right now, because he really just wants to have somebody who he can consider a confidant and somebody he could consider a really strong friend. We know it's going to extend to the romance, you know. It's going to extend to the romance category, or it's going to extend to that romance soon. It's just when and how that happens. Who makes the first move? Is it Dahlia? Is it Wilfred? You have to assume it's Wilfred. But I love how kind of they're taking it slowly right now, because they both have some baggage, drama, you know, they have some additional things that they need to kind of work out before they're ready for that romance option. But I think I think that first moment is gonna fall into their laps naturally, and I can't wait to see it. Like, what's the first kiss? What's gonna be that first thing that ends up occurring? So I'll see you guys next week for episode number 7? Question mark? Yep. I'll see you guys next week for episode number 7. I appreciate you guys being here. Peace out.